then your mind starts to spin up all the things you can do and so on. This is really what comes passion. It's not what you have, but what you can do with the things.
Welcome to TTalks, where we dive into the stories behind the leaders shaping our world. I'm your host, TJ Walia. Our next guest leads the America's go-to-market strategy for Microsoft Azure AI, where his role allows him to focus on market trends, sales enablement, and connecting with partners and customers to help them overcome challenges. Lucio, welcome to TTalks.
Thank you. Thank you, DJ.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you, Lucio. For our audience, if you can give them a quick, brief intro about yourself, and we'll get right into it.
Sure, of course. And hi, DJ. We've been friends for a while. We've been working together for some time. And by the way, I apologize for my background. I realize it's very kitsch. I'm actually in a meeting room compared to yours. Anyway, so I am the America's go-to-market manager for Azure AI. And basically, my job, I do two things. I help customers to buy by understanding market trends, and I help sellers to sell. The best part of my job, of course, is working with customers, with partners, and do share learning like we are doing today. So my history, my business journey has been long. I will not bother everybody, but basically I started as a system administrator a long time ago. And at that time, there was like a mainframe everywhere. When I joined this bank, there was only 4 PCs. And they told me, yeah, you are the system administrator. Like, why you need the system administrator of 4 PCs? Anyway, a lot of time passed. After 10 years where there was a PC in every desk, I actually moved with something more challenging. I joined Microsoft, where I am there for almost a couple of decades. And I did several roles, consulting, support, managing. And in the last 10 years, I was focusing on sales enablement and strategy.
Amazing. That's quite a journey, Lucio, going from a 4 mainframe location to an enterprise like Microsoft. I mean, that's a heck of a journey. The first question I want to ask you is, and this is something I ask all my guests, is that pivotal turning point in your career, or even in your life, and for that matter, there's always one that we can reflect back to and go back and say, you know what, there was that moment. If that didn't happen, I don't know if I would be where I am today. Do you have one like that you can share with us?
I do indeed. There are plenty, but I would say the first thing is understanding what is your passion. Because if you can combine passion with your work, is where actually you succeed. I find my passion very early. That's why I am lucky. So my parents actually gave me a Commodore VIC-20. It's like a console game. We're talking about the 1980s. So it was very expensive. And I realized that machine was wonderful. So I really have passion for technology since the beginning. And this, for me, I realized, okay, I want to make a career out of this. And so I joined the IT space. I mentioned already my story. In my career, the biggest turning point for me is when I actually started working with IoT, because I really love the technology and the AI. These are the two pivotal moments, because I truly match the work with my passion. That is really understanding what the technology can do and so on.
That's awesome. It's something interesting you said about your first experience with that device or that machine. And I go back, into the same time frame as well. And, my first machine was probably a 286 at the time. But to say we fell in love with those machines, yet they were so simple and couldn't do all the functions. So the listeners today, when you look at an iPhone or an Android device, they're light years ahead of what those devices were that we had access to. Yet we fell in love with them, right? Their simplicity, the ability to do a certain function, and to go through that journey, it's quite impressive.
But DJ, because it was new, it's like Pong. If you look Pong, the game now, oh my gosh, how can we spend hours on that? Because we never had something before. That was tough, and then your mind starts to spin up all the things you can do and so on. This is really what comes passion. It's not what you have, but what you can do with the things. Same with AI. I mean, AI today, I think it just began. But I mean, we can do a lot of things with AI. So this is the part I'm excited.
I love that. What you said is, it's not what you have, it's what you can do with it. And that is so key to understand, because we forget that. We get something, we're like, okay, I've got it now, and you lose that interest. But if something has that potential, and you can, unlock new potential with it,
You need to see the
Yeah,
potential.
that is
That's
very
the
cool.
key, right? Yep.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I mean, that's going to take me into, my next question, and that's really about decision making. And it comes into, making tough decisions. And that also includes what you're talking about, seeing the potential. That's a decision that we have to make is, do I see the potential in this and do I go behind this? Right? So you talk about your passion, you talk about connecting all that. How does that all come together with decision making?
Of course, we make decision every single moment, right? So we are talking here about tough decision, meaning there are some consequences, and probably it's hard to change correction. Because so what's happening today is we usually make micro decisions, and then because things are changing, so that's really the way we make decisions today. But there are some of those you need to make a decision. So what I usually do, I try to be as much as possible data oriented or fact oriented, and try to simplify the problem. So maybe having two or three options maximum, because if you have more than three, it's very hard. The second thing I do, I usually do we call it pre-mortem analysis. So assuming that there is an option A, what's going to happen after that, and try to do that scenario and so on, and say for the other two options. In that case, I have a better view. It's like something like you need to think through your plan. That's like a pre-mortem exercise. And when I have that, I actually reach out to my network, my boss, or whoever. But I only want to go there with a point of view. I realize that if I don't have a point of view, they will go all over the place, and maybe because they don't have a context. So that's basically the step I'm usually doing for very important decision. Otherwise, I make micro decision in order to get the right ones.
Yeah, it's I like that analogy of just taking a big decision, putting it into smaller ones so that you can kind of see and measure it, right? Because
Yes.
without that context, it becomes very difficult. So, but in the same token with decision making, there are times when we don't know if our decision is going to be the right one or the wrong one. So we're going with our gut feeling at times, or it's calculated based on the data we have.
Yep.
How do you handle if a decision doesn't go the way you intended, or the outcome isn't what you were looking at? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, when you make such decision, you want to have some sort of sponsor, right? Unless you are the sponsor, that's a different story. So when it goes not intended, first of all, you need to have the courage to admit that it's not trackable. This is why it's important, to your point, to create some goals, because everybody want to kill their child, right? So everybody's going well. So having some goals and then measure, it will give you a more objective way. So when you realize this is not going the right direction, first of all, I will need to understand why. Maybe this is the wrong timing. It's even if it doesn't go well, it's still a learning. So it's actually very good. But usually what I do is when I realize that, I go back to my decision chain, whoever I connect in the network, whatever my leadership is, and so on, and say, hey, this is what happened, this is why. And having a correction plan. Usually decisions are not entirely wrong. There are maybe one component that you need to change. You need to identify those. So that's basically what I do. Depending on the issue, I can escalate at a higher level and so on. I'm lucky that I work in a big company where I have all these layers of different powers. But that's how I usually do.
No, I like that, and I think what you're basically saying is it's not a matter of running away from those decisions, but it's about going back and analyzing, understanding better what has happened, and then how can we get back on track if we need to, or
Exactly.
tweak and modify it. Right? Absolutely, that's very cool. Very cool. In terms of and I'm going to switch gears a little bit. In terms of workload and all the things that we do and deal with, and you and I've dealt with it in the corporate world as well. Work-life balance. What does that look like for you? What does that mean for Lucio? What is that? You can tell us a little bit about
you are asking to the wrong guy, but no, it's not. Of course, it's. This work this business is very demanding. There is a lot of things going on, and even and you don't want to sacrifice your learning, so you need to dedicate times for learning. And of course, this is time. So what I really thinking is I think work-life balance in two ways. So first of all, it's not work-life balance, but it's flexibility. And I am lucky enough that my job given to me. So sometimes I want to go to the gym in the morning, or I need to go to bring my daughter to school or something. I need to have that flexibility. And the other thing is treat the personal life as a business life. Sometimes, we forget to dedicate time for the family and so on. And so when you have time, of course, you go to work. That's what happened to me during the pandemic, right? I was working 24 hours. I think if you are more specific, like I can make an appointment because I need to go for dinner somewhere, or maybe I need to go at the gym. Just make an appointment, like just another meeting, or even in your head, just make sure you know about it. You will not book or change priority, because at the end, family always go low priority if you're not really committed to that.
Yeah, it's about being deliberate. It's about being intentional about the connection we're building with them as well. To your point, during the pandemic, absolutely, I think a lot of us, those lines were blurred, or the lines were blurred in terms of, you know, work home. We're always in the office, and I had
Right.
to make some personal decisions of it. You know what? I'm not taking my laptop into my bedroom. Like it's staying where it is because it would follow along.
Really?
It'd be on the kitchen counter. It'd be everywhere. So
Yeah,
we had to make those deliberate decisions, but to and I love this advice where if you want to go to the gym, then put it in your calendar, right? You have an appointment with yourself to go to the gym. Maybe it's dinner with a family member or a friend, whatever that is. If it's in the calendar, at least it's visible and you're aware of it happening rather than it being out of sight and out of mind.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. The next question I have relates to mental health, and it's been a challenge, and it kind of ties into the work-life balance stuff that we're talking about as well. But it's been a challenge, but it's also top of mind for a lot of organizations. How do you prioritize yourself and your teams with mental health and being very deliberate about that?
Yeah, it's actually an important point. I had um, some challenges in the past because of the overwhelming with work. Unfortunately, when you are in that situation, it's very hard to realize. It's very hard to recover. So it's important, to your point, that you be a bit proactive. So I think there are few steps. So the first one is share openly. I was fortunate in one of the team call, or one of the this large meeting. Somebody shared about these things, right? And it's hard to share, but it was very delightful for me because I was feeling the same symptoms or same stuff, and I realized, maybe it's not really me. Something else is going on. So the first step is really sharing. Of course, it's hard to share, but maybe in a small environment, or learning from others. There are tons of resources outside, but the first step is awareness and sharing. The second piece is kind of a meditation. I always thought the meditation is a waste of time. It's part of maybe my culture. I don't know. It's not. It's really, even if you track your heartbeat and everything before and after, you can see an immediate value. But really help you. It helps you to concentrate. It helps you to focus and so on. And then don't be afraid to go to a therapist. These are doctors like any other doctors. They're here to help, and so I believe these are the three things important. One last thing that I realized in the last few years is that the mind can be trained just like any other muscles. So don't think that it's happening. There's nothing you can do. There's a lot you can do.
You've said a lot there, Lucio, and a lot of it that I resonate with. So I don't know if you're aware, but in my career, even when I was at Microsoft, I did hit burnout myself, but I actually fainted at a customer meeting in a restaurant.
Ah,
And when I went through that experience, it was very, very terrifying, as you can imagine. But the anxiety that I would have, I lost my entire confidence, believe it or not. So, and
yeah,
you've seen me and how I interact and how I engage. So imagine that same individual not being able to go talk to someone, right? And had lost all my abilities, confidence. But when I recovered out of that, Lucio, interestingly enough, and you were talking about sharing and being open, I would never talk about that experience because it was very, very dark and it was deep and it was
yeah,
very ingrained in me. And I started slowly sharing it with people. But I still remember this. I was going to a customer meeting with another friend of mine, or a colleague, and then became friend. And we were about to cross the road to go into this client. And I was completely nervous and shaking for no reason. Not for, it's not like we don't have our work done. We're not going, no reason at all. And at that time, I didn't understand what anxiety was. And she looks at me, she goes, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm feeling this way." I explained to her what had happened. And she puts her hand on my shoulder and she goes, "You're feeling anxious, TJ." And I'm like, "Anxious? Me? Like, I've never thought I've ever felt anxious." But that awareness, and to your point, if when you started hearing other people sharing those stories, like, yeah, you know what? I'm not alone. There are others that are feeling the same thing. So it's very important for us to release and let other people know that we're going through this, or we need some support and help, especially management and leadership. Like, our companies have a lot of tools and resources in place that we can access and leverage to get that assistance and that guidance and that coaching that we need to get out of it.
Yeah.
The other aspect that you shared was the mind is a muscle; it can be trained. Absolutely. I remember listening to this podcast, and the individual said something really well, and I forget his name at the moment, but I remember what he said. And he said, a lot of us are trying to take medication to slow the mind down,
Yeah.
right? And and that's what anxiety is kind of doing to us, and we're trying to slow down. He said, it's a sharp blade. So if you have a sharp blade in your hands, but your hand is trembling, it's not the blade that you need to make dull. He goes, our brain is super sharp. We need to train how to control that brain so that we can get better. And that's where meditation comes in, right? Meditation slows things down, lets us reflect, lets us really get in that, involved with our own body or in ourselves, rather than trying to figure out, let me pop a pill and slow the mind down in a different way and
Yeah.
not treat it.
I'll give you a trick.
Yeah.
So only the present is true. The past is what we remember and how we saw things, and the future, of course, what we imagine. Now, the stress is based on the future, and the anxious is based on the past. So if you think about it, you can actually learn and correct. So
Yeah,
that's back to
absolutely.
you.
And it's funny you say that. One of the things I tell my daughter is, and I tell her the same thing, like, we can train her brain to do this and to do that. And I told her, I said, if I put a story in your head long enough, you'll actually believe it. You might think it's a dream, you might think it's something else, and it might have never happened, right? But you will start believing it, you'll start connecting to it. So we have the ability to train our brains, we have the ability to go through all those emotions. And the other example is a dream. We can go through a dream, feel all the emotions, whether it's fear, happiness, anger, stress, all of that, while we're sleeping with our eyes closed. So the brain has the ability to do that. We just have to figure out how to tweak it.
Yeah.
So no, I love the points you've made there and shared with us, Lucio. I'm going to switch into our next aspect, which is productivity strategies. So given all that we're dealing with, given everything that's going on, work-life balance, mental health, anxiety, how do you stay focused and productive in your day-to-day?
So what I actually did, I read one of the books. It's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of the chapter was getting things done, or get the shit done. And that's the new name. Where basically you use a tool such as Outlook. I'm using Outlook, but you can use other tools where you want to really be super organized. Like, don't keep any task in your head. You need to write it down. Don't postpone decisions. If it's something you know you're not going to do it, close it. Otherwise, there will be some pending activity going on. I am like at zero email inbox. I think you are too. So I read every single email. I'm very, very organized. It takes a while. It takes a while to organize and go at that level, but it will never go back, because it's really free up your mind. You can really focus on things you need to get done without getting distracted by millions of requests you get every day.
Yeah, I love that, staying organized. And you laughed about the inbox zero, because that's what got me out of my whole situation when I was hitting
Yeah.
burnout. And then I obviously started teaching inbox zero and productivity at Microsoft, just out of my extra time that was available. And before I left Microsoft, I don't know if you know this or not, Lucio, but I had trained over 7,000 FTE. on my productivity training. And I'm probably at about 9 or 10,000 now, individuals trained. But it was just a formula of same thing you're saying. Don't put things aside because it's not gonna, you're not gonna go back to it. Put it in a system where you can go back to it, see it. And we were talking about that gym, aspect earlier, and putting it in your calendar. The same thing, right? If we live in our calendars and we're going to be seeing that all day, then make sure all the important stuff live there as well, so you can get to them. And what I also found was the 80-20 rule really helped as well, right? So when you have 80% of your output coming from 20% of the items that you have to do, then focus on those and get that done, right? All the other stuff probably isn't going to be as important, but we end up spending more time on the not important stuff, and we forget the important stuff just because we'll get to it, or I'll get to it later. No, just get right into it and complete it. So no, I appreciate that aspect of the productivity side. The next segment, Lucio, is the fun segment where it's the rapid fire questions.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to ask you a question, and you're going to give me the answer or response to the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Ready?
Hopefully this is
All
not
right.
PG. This is PG-13, I assume.
It will be PG-13. Yes, hopefully. Okay. We're probably gonna have PG-13 related ages listening to this segment as well. Okay. So I know my daughter's gonna be listening, so we definitely need to keep it PG-13.
All right. Shoot.
So the first question is: tea or coffee?
Coffee.
One gadget you can't live without.
Smartwatch.
Oh, interesting. Favorite food?
Do I have to say pizza without ananas?
It's funny because I've got a question that ties back to that. Okay. Your wake up time?
Oh, 6, around 6.
Now, you said you were analytical and you made your decisions based on numbers. How many toppings on your pizza?
Maximum 2. That's the magic rule. If you have more than 2, it's a pie. Well, I'm Italian, so I'm an expert on pizza, so don't challenge me.
Well, you based on that response, you very well might be. One word to describe the future of AI.
Intriguing. I don't know where it's going. So for me, it's intriguing because it can go every direction. It can move from the first enemy for the humanity or the biggest helper. So I don't know. Hopefully it's not that, but
hopefully it's going to be friendly. Yeah.
Yes.
So the next question: human-like AI, exciting or concerning?
Exciting, 100%.
And most promising tech trend in the next 5 years?
The AGI, the artificial general intelligence. So we're basically
still AI.
Many problems.
It's still AI.
Absolutely. This is the trend for the next 20 years. It's going to be better and better. If you think about now, ChatGPT, it's awesome, but it still does basic things. If we build on top of it, they can do everything, right? So
it's just the foundation, right? It is the foundation.
Think about now you can apply video, pictures. It's like you can actually do a movie at some point with AI, right? Yeah. So
absolutely. They've already, and to that point, they've already have plugins with what's the company called? CapCut. So CapCut is a video editing tool, and they've got a plugin with it. And you tell it to create me a B-roll video for this topic based on this. It will go out, create it, and give it to you.
Yeah, I'll tell you something more. Think about video games. You can create the video games with no story. AI will create the story. So every time you play, it's going to be different. I'm actually looking forward to that time because I'm a gamer.
That's pretty exciting. It's funny. My 10-year-old, I've introduced her to ChatGPT, and we do it for math problems and creativity. And I saw her the other day, and she was playing a game with ChatGPT. And I said, "What are you doing?" And she was actually playing, and it was so brilliant. She loves games, and it was so brilliant. She basically told ChatGPT and said, "Let's play a game." And it said, "Do you want to play with me, or in your real world?" And she said, "I want to play with you." So what they did was, she said, "We're going to say out a word or a name or any word for that matter." And she goes, "The next word that the other person responds with has to be connected to it, but not the same." and they have to continue on. So if they said water, then the other one would say swimming pool. If there's a swimming pool, they'll say, swimming noodle or whatever have you. And they would just keep on going. And I'm like, that's brilliant to help her improve her vocabulary and
Exactly.
understand that aspect of it. So I was super happy about it because normally she'll pick up her Nintendo Switch and she'll be on that, right? So
Yeah,
it's an evolution of learning if we use it the right way. It's a tool, and that's the
it
beauty of
is.
it.
It is indeed. I actually thank you for mentioning that because I'm using ChatGPT for learning because it will
Yeah.
correct me if I do something wrong. I mean, not always rightful, but it will challenge you. Sometimes when you learn by your own, you don't know what question to ask and so on. Use Ask ChatGPT.
So I'll tell you something. I'm laughing because I had to do the Azure Fundamentals exam, and
Huh?
I didn't have time to study for it and prepare for it. And it was just, I was like, I'll do the exam, I'll get it done. And I had a foundational knowledge of AI and the technology, and it's something I'm passionate about, but I didn't know what the delta or the gap was. So I went to ChatGPT and said, listen, here's the exam that I'm going to be doing. Ask me questions from this exam. Also, verify if it's a guess or I know the answer. Based on that, build a curriculum for me and then train me on just the delta that I need. So it was brilliant. It asked me at least about 20 questions. And I said, this was a guess. No, this is knowledge. And it would say, yeah, you're right or you're wrong. It would educate me through. And then it built a curriculum to train me on the other stuff that I didn't know. I went and aced that exam, believe it or not.
Is that cheating?
Right? No, not at all. It's learning,
No,
right? It's learning. And that's the beauty of it.
yeah, no,
If
it's
ChatGPT wrote the exam for me, then it would be cheating.
no. I actually didn't think about it. That's awesome
Yeah.
because yeah, no, absolutely.
I've I've always looked at testing and assessments as don't study for the whole thing. Study for what you don't know. So
Totally.
it's always been difficult for me, right? For going at our textbook, yeah, do I know this? Do I not know this? Reading a module, yeah, maybe. And you have to go through all the content. ChatGPT simplified this for me. I said, you know what? I don't need to do everything. Test me on what I don't know, and then based on that, teach me.
Yeah,
And that was just amazing.
yeah.
But Lucio, thank you very much again for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. And I look forward to our next conversation or next time I'm in Redmond for us to sit down and grab lunch again.
Anytime, my friends. Thank you all.
Thank you.